Hi there. So I'm usually doing this with someone else, and it feels very strange to not be in conversation. But I think one of the things that we're going to do here is start getting in the habit of just sharing some of our journey and what's going on. This evening, I'm really interested in neuro-linguistic programming, and this evening I've been doing a little bit of studying and writing around the idea of the reticular activating system. And I'll describe what that is in a moment. Probably not in a very scientific way because I only understand it conceptually. Um, but when we think about law of attraction, manifestation, things like that, it can often seem very metaphysical and mystical and magical. And I truly think that it is. And also, there is an underlying science of the mind that creates that, something that I like to refer to as practical manifestation. Um, we are taking in any given day as much as 60,000 units of information. And our prefrontal cortex, our conscious mind, can only hold about 7 bits at a time. So what happens is it has to take all of this information that's coming in and determine what's important, what aligns with our beliefs, with our underlying motivations, with our associations and life scripts, and is determining what's important and getting rid of the rest. So they talk about in NLP this idea that the map is not the territory, which is to say that we have an internal representation of the world, but that is not reality. The territory is far more complex, far more expansive than what we are experiencing. You've probably heard of uh, negativity bias, things like that, where sometimes we will give more weight to things that feel dangerous or feel negative because that's our survival instinct kicking in. Now, there may be more positive things going on around us, but our experience focuses on the things that feel dangerous. And in that sense, reality is more complex than what we are seeing. And in that other sense, it may be that there are positive things going on that we don't see because they don't align with our belief system or they don't align with what we believe is actually possible in our lives. So something could literally be right in front of you and you may not notice it if it's not aligned in that way. So the reticular activating system is this network of neurons in our brainstem, and it determines what gets through to our conscious awareness. And it prioritizes and aligns with current beliefs and focuses attention on what the mind has been trained to notice. And so when we think about manifesting or bringing something more into our lives, um, what we give weight to, what we give importance to, is often what will show up. Even you'll hear in law of attraction the idea that you want to find where something that you're trying to call in already exists in your life, and you want to root that in with somatic awareness. Like, what does it feel like to be abundant? And if I can really get into that vibrational frequency of abundance, I'm going to start seeing more of that and attracting more of that. And that may be metaphysically true, but it's also part of the neuroscience that we are aligning our experience with what we believe, with by letting information in, some information in, and discarding other information. So one way to kind of see this in action, well, I'm going to give you a couple actually, and they're in the article that I'll include with this. I keep a book that is basically my asks of the universe, the things that I'd like to see. And what I'll do is I'll make an ask, and then I will start to look for evidence of the answer somewhere in my life. And sometimes it's something really meaningful, and sometimes it's something just kind of fun. For instance, one of these exercises is the selective attention experiment, which says for the next 24 hours, choose something specific to notice. Red cars, butterfly imagery, certain number. You've probably heard of people seeing 111 or 777 in places. Um, and then without doing anything or altering your routine, you just set that intention to notice it and become aware of it. And then when you do notice it and become aware of it, write that down. Do something to reinforce the fact that you saw that show up. Just giving an example or a story, I had one where I was asking, over the course of a week, I wanted to see a green Jeep. And I was driving to Lawrence, Kansas one day, and I started thinking about how there are lots of army Jeeps around. I don't see them very often, but it's like, well, that's not as exciting, a green army Jeep. So then I set the intention in that moment that I wanted to see something that wasn't the army green. Um, Driving back that very same day, I got stuck on a highway for about 20 minutes behind the most neon green Jeep I think I've ever seen. And of course, they're out there, but before I had set that intention, I can't really recall a time that I had seen a green Jeep. So, so that's a simple one. I'll even share another one. One night, when I was going to bed, I set the intention that I wanted the universe to show me how it could support me financially in a way that wasn't tied into the work I do or the hours that I'm giving. And I know that happens for people all the time, this miraculous way that money will just show up where they're least expecting it. And I set the intention for that. The very next day, I got an email, um, and it was from Blue Cross Blue Shield about some litigation that had been resolved about, well, it started about 4 years ago and just got resolved, saying that I might be entitled to some compensation. And it was a list of all of the years I had been a member of that insurance plan and what I was owed. And I had to look at it every which way because I thought for sure it was a scam, but in the end it turned out it wasn't. So just kind of it feels magical. And also though, in some sense, by setting that intention, I was also opening myself up to be looking for evidence that that existed. And so it's possible if I had not set that intention, I wouldn't have paid as much note to it. Um, Another one is the power of affirmation journaling. So each morning, writing down a statement that aligns with a belief you want to reinforce, um, and doing it as if it's already happening. So some examples I put in here: I'm surrounded by opportunities. People value what I have to offer. Abundance flows to me in unexpected ways. And then through the day, making note of any time where something comes up to reinforce that. We often reinforce the things that are negative. You've probably had the experience of having had a bad day, that expression, when it rains, it pours. Something bad happens, and next thing you know, our reticular activating system is looking for things to reinforce the idea that it's just going to get worse, and that's that negativity bias. But what is it like when you can turn that around and look for that positivity, those ways that the things that you're asking for are actually showing up, and supportive? Another exercise, the opportunity filter. Choose an area where you want more growth, career, relationships, creativity, financial abundance, and set a clear intention and then spend a few moments visualizing that scenario where that goal is already unfolding. And then in the days to come, pay close attention to conversations, to chance encounters, new ideas that emerge, and just see where that filtering is happening. Those relevant connections are starting to show up. And again, this is just really choosing our experience by telling that reticular activating system, that part of our brain that's guiding us, that subconscious that is guiding us, telling us what is important, what we want to validate, noticing, looking for that validation and that confirmation that is happening, and in doing so, reinforcing it even more. So it creates this perpetual cycle or movement, and that is manifestation. And again, it feels very magical, but there is that underlying neuroscience that is also helping with that. So, and then the other one is rewriting the narrative. Notice a reoccurring negative thought or belief you hold about yourself, and then reframe it into a positive version. I'm going to talk about power words at some point, Ericksonian language patterns and words that slip into the subconscious. And one that I really am interested in right now is the word but, but, because when someone uses the word but, anything that came before it is negated. So, as an example, a teacher might have said to a child or a student in school, "You're a great student, but you talk too much." And what's going to stick with them because of the magical power of that word is you talk too much. So they negated that compliment. And so in a lot of times in hypnotherapy, they tell you not to use the word but in reframing, it can be really interesting because it allows you to not spiritually bypass what's going on in your life. Say you're having a hard day, perhaps you want to acknowledge that and you want to be with that. And you don't want to say, oh, everything is looking up when you don't feel that. So I might say, I'm having a really difficult day and it seems like nothing is working on my behalf, but, and there's that word, anything I say next is going to be validated. I keep showing up, but I keep showing up. I keep trying. I keep writing down my intentions and looking for the way that they show up in my life. And in doing so, I am giving myself an opportunity to have a better experience. So yeah, I hope to talk about this more. I'm excited about um, NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, hypnotherapy, the science of the subconscious mind, and how we can use these little tools, tricks, exercises to start to create the life that we want. And it is manifestation, and it is law of attraction, and it is also practical, in that there is an underlying science that we can utilize on our behalf. So hope you enjoyed that and looking forward to chatting with you soon.